Hey, my friends. At the time of filming, it's 7 days away from the premiere of Season 5 of Alone from the History Channel. And what they've already done, though, just in the last few days, is released video clips of each contestant going through their 10 items that they've chosen, that they're going to bring with them as they go through Season 5. And I thought this would be an awesome opportunity for you guys to sound off and maybe just share what you would pick, which 10 items you would pick. There's a lot of people have been asking for this video. A lot of people have been sharing their 10 items for the last few months. So maybe this would be, your video, if you've been trying to find a place to go with that information. And so I thought maybe I'd kind of join in, and so I took quite a while to, and I really thought about this, and we don't really even have an official list, though, of what is even allowed for Season 5. Some of the previous seasons, they waited right up until the premiere to even release what the list was. So we don't really know officially, and I've tried to look. I went through the entire website. I went to the Facebook account. I went through History Channel's YouTube account. I've asked people that, that I think would know, and there's no official list yet. Not yet. So I would hope in the next few days that they may want to release that so that we can kind of just enjoy, looking at all the options. But this is what I've come up yet so far. I did have a very difficult time getting it down to 10 items. I kept on coming up with 11 items because I wanted to have 2 rations. And I would have 2 different types of rations. As I go through the list, I'm not going to be very specific on like what type of rations or what type of tool per se, like in terms of brands or model numbers. I'm not going to get into all that. When the History Channel released the contestants talking about their 10 items, I do believe they did this on purpose. They didn't allow them to really get specific on brands and models and stuff. They kind of just said, yeah, I'm bringing this axe or this, things like that. So I would bring 1 ration. I think they called it an emergency ration. So you get I think it's 2 pounds, I believe, with most of those, 2 pounds of a ration. The next item would be a multi-tool. It would be a very heavy-duty multi-tool. I have a few that I would probably pick from in my head if I had to pick one. But yeah, definitely I think a multi-tool because it has all these options available. And believe it or not, I would actually use the blade on the multi-tool, at least the main blade, the multi-tool as my main cutting tool. Now, it's kind of risky, but I think that to do what I need to do, I'm going to have to really, have multiple uses for every item, or at least a lot of the items. The next item I pick is a bow saw. I really like the strength of a bow saw, much more so than just a folding saw. So that's what I picked. And I did not pick an axe. It was kind of tempting, but I think that the bow saw is good enough. Fishing hooks and line. I think it's very important to have a whole variety of assorted hooks, sizes. And I'd probably go with some of the heavier line, test line, whatever is allowed. Once again, we don't really know the guidelines, but we do know that it's allowed. These are, at least the ones I picked, are allowed because previous contestants have picked some of these as well. A bow and arrows. I believe that they did say, though, and they did leak in some of these previous videos, that you can have up to 9 arrows. So I was like, okay, cool. So I would have different types of arrowheads or tips, for those arrows, if that's allowed as well, and go with, a bow and some arrows. Because they are saying, though, in this particular season, they have the green light to actually hunt. So unlike other seasons, to my knowledge, I think that the majority of the animals were off limits. They could not hunt certain ones. They were protected species and so forth. In this particular season, it seems very clear that most of the animals are just fair game. And I think they're even talking about bear. They did mention that, bear, deer, and so forth. So it should be very interesting to see if they're actually going to be able to procure, larger game with their bow. The gill net. So this is the one that I had a hard time with. I know I want a gill net. There's a lot of people say just get a lot of parachute cord and make your own gill net. But the thing of it is, it's very time consuming to make the gill net. And I think that it's a purposely built piece of gear. And I would just rather have it pre-made when I go out there. So I'm not fooling around with it for days, if not weeks. So the gill net. And I wanted to have some parachute cord. This was another problem, but I didn't have enough space for it. So that's a little upsetting, but no parachute cord, but definitely I have a gill net. The next item is a sleeping bag, or really more like an Arctic bag. Somewhere probably between 40 to like, I'm talking about like in the negatives, like negative 40 to negative 60 degrees. A lot of the contestants seemed like that they selected a down, like a down type of bag, which I was a bit surprised because, as you know, they're hard to dry out when they're wet. But if I can get, and I don't know much about sleeping bags when we're talking about Arctic grade. I've never had to buy an Arctic grade bag. But if they're available in synthetic materials, I'm going to go with that. So that's the next item is my sleeping bag. A fire steel. I go with some really heavy duty fire steel. I mean, like an oversized one. That's just kind of a given. I mean, even if you have skills to make fire other ways, it's really nice to have a fire steel. The next is a stainless steel canteen with like a metal screw on top. That's going to be really important. You kind of have to have something to boil water, and you could say, well, you could just boil your water in a pan or a pot. But man, I tell you what, if you're out and about and you're foraging or hunting, try to carry around a pot or something with you and drink from that. It's not realistic. You need a canteen. So I definitely want a stainless steel canteen, probably a 40-ounce canteen. And I know exactly which brand and model I would get. And actually, I own one that I would actually use for this particular selection. And the last item would be a pot to cook in, because I mean, I would definitely plan on catching at least some fish and hopefully some game. So yeah, definitely a pot. Now the big question for me really came into what type of pot. Well, it definitely has to have a lid, but it was more about what kind of material that I would select. So it's really kind of a toss-up for me between stainless steel and titanium, but I'm kind of leaning a little more toward titanium. Titanium I have a few titanium pots and I really, really like them. But there's definitely nothing wrong with stainless steel either. I would definitely avoid the aluminum pots, and that's just my preference. And so those are my 10 items. I'd have 1 emergency rations, a multi-tool, a bow saw, fishing hooks and line, a bow and arrows, a gill net, a sleeping bag, fire steel, canteen, and a pot. And so what would you select? I'd be very curious to hear about it. And I think that a lot of people would love to share their 10 items in the comments section. As always, thanks for checking the video out and enjoy Season 5 of Alone.